Hey everybody, welcome back. So bear with me because this is literally the 6th time I've tried to record this video. This has kind of just been a cavalcade of errors trying to make this video happen. So the first recording I did was like a walk and talk type thing, and it was okay, but I figured I would rather record it with a tripod since the tripod showed up later that same day. However, this tripod happened to come with this little remote thing. So this remote lets you start the recording and stop the recording remotely, which is a nice feature. However, this has already bitten me twice, and I think you can imagine in what way. So a big part of the problem was that I had my phone on silent. So this means that I had no way of knowing whether or not the camera had actually started recording. So I had pressed the button, but the camera was not recording. So then I did another take, and then that take, the sun was in my eyes, and that was like ruining that, so I had to reset up again. And then I did another take, and that take, and I lost that take, or I lost half of that take because my phone's hard drive filled up. So I had to go empty the hard drive off, and then I recorded another take, and it was mostly just a bad take because I was exhausted. So now it's another day. And then I record another take using this thing again, and it didn't record again. So that was when I finally got the bright idea to turn the damn sound on my phone so I could see, or so I could hear, rather, a beep when it starts recording. So in any case, here we are again doing this like for the 5th time. So just bear with me if it's not the most smooth version of this. Actually probably will be better because I've done it so many times. So this week I finished up the diagonal running and walking animations. So here's what those look like. I think they look pretty good. They certainly give the game a more polished feel when you're just running around. Other than that, I've mostly just been fixing bugs and doing stuff that I need to do so that I can put out new builds to the alpha testers of the game. Although fixing bugs is important, it doesn't really make for interesting or entertaining videos most of the time, unless the bug is particularly hilarious. I guess I did have a pretty funny bug this week. This could be its own little segment of bugs that are hilarious. So I did have a bug with the resolution selection menu, which was that if you picked the last option on the menu, it would crash the game. And the only reason this was funny was because there's kind of this aphorism in programming that it's always your bug, it's never the thing that you're using. So in this case, I was thinking that, well, this is some bug with Unity. It can't handle setting certain resolutions, or it's telling me that the monitor can handle a resolution that it actually can't. And so I spent probably about an hour trying to track down whether or not I was getting the resolutions list correctly, or whether I was calling the right functions to set the resolution, only to find out that it was purely just an off by 1 error. So I would store an index that would be the option that you have selected on the menu. However, the first option on that resolutions menu is actually a back button, which meant that if I just took your index into that menu, if I just took the position of your cursor in that menu and used that to look up the resolutions, I would end up looking at past the end of the list of resolutions, because the first entry on the list of resolutions was not the same as the first entry on the menu. So that was a pretty common bug, but it was just funny because I was so self-assured that this was just Unity screwing me over again. And it was just the most basic kind of dumb programming mistake that you can make. Other than that, I don't really have much visually to show of what I did this week, so I thought that I would kind of make a continuation of the sort of segment that we had last week. I think I'm going to give that segment a title now, and cue trumpets. Topic of the week. Week. So the topic this week is innovation, and more specifically how I think that innovation is largely overrated. By innovation, I mostly mean novelty. I mean the sense that a game is doing something that's particularly new or original. This could seem like a very convenient topic of discussion for me in particular, because Taiji is a game which is very clearly heavily influenced by The Witness. But I'm not really trying to bring this up to try to come up with an excuse for that. I think it's ultimately up for everybody else to decide whether or not Taiji is a great game. Mostly my goal in making it is personal exploration of game design and less about being original. Oftentimes I think people tend to conflate greatness with originality, and people think that the best games are probably the most innovative games. But I don't think that's actually true. I think that what makes a game great is how it synthesizes its influences in a new way rather than being free of influences. If innovation is about originality, then you might say that the best way to be original is to have no influences. So then you cut yourself off from the world. Maybe you go live in a cave for a while, and you're going to come out off this mountain with the tablets that state your most original ideas, right? I think that that doesn't actually work very well. I don't think it's really possible to create something from nothing. I think all creativity and art doesn't really happen in a vacuum. As human beings, our ideas are shaped by our influences, and there's no real way to have no influences. Art and creativity in general is not really about creating new ideas wholesale. It's really about taking existing ideas and synthesizing them together into something new. So on the shallow end of the creativity pool, we have games that are essentially just clones of other video games. This can extend as far as intentional clones, like those of Flappy Bird that are plastered all over the iOS App Store, to the broader swath of games that are limited in their influences but may be easily boiled down to X but Y. For example, Dark Souls but 2D, or Dark Souls but it's in space, or Dark Souls but it's Demon Souls. Then on the innovative end of the spectrum as far as games are concerned, we have the games that are considered very innovative. You might put The Witness there. Although I would agree that The Witness is innovative, I think that it mostly gets its innovation from the diversity and obscurity of its sources rather than from any strict sense of full originality. I don't think there's very many games that are influenced by books at all, much less Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities. I think I stand by my earlier assessment that originality and innovation are in some sense overrated. I think that maybe they are a little bit more important than I would give them credit. However, I don't think that they're the end-all, be-all of what makes a game great. And I think if I had to boil down some advice for designers, I would say that there's nothing wrong with making something that's not totally original, and there's nothing wrong with liking things that aren't totally original. There are probably thousands of games out there that are extremely original, but have been forgotten by time due to the fact that they were almost unplayable or just generally not polished. So innovation in and of itself doesn't exactly create a great game. Execution is basically of equal importance to innovation, and I might even argue that execution is more important. Certainly, none of the best-selling games are poorly executed by any stretch of the imagination. Game development is both an art and a craft, and the craft is just as important as the art. There's some people out there like David Lynch or Jonathan Blow who just can spout out originality off the top of their head. But you and I aren't like them, so the best way for people like you or me to seem innovative is to go outside of our comfort zones, cultivate a diverse array of interests, and work on being a better craftsman. So maybe you disagree with me, maybe you think that innovation is the end-all be-all of game design. If you do disagree, get down in the comments and let me know. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, subscribe, that way you'll know that I posted one of these things. Most importantly, please wishlist Taiji on Steam. There's a link in the description. I'm going to flash some text on the screen, that way you think about it for a second. So I'll be back next week. And until then, have a good one. I'm my ass hurts, so I'm gonna just call this and we'll see what we can get out of it.